What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Lavinia'S episode 3 breakdown and review. This show is continuing to be a superb yet slow burn show, and my lamentations that the Ferryman Club subplot is taking up too much screen time was heard by the gods and was simply a footnote this episode where we focused on the touch and the orphanage. And usually I would not like the fact that there is an incredibly slow tease of the larger backdrop of a storyline, but here I'm really enjoying the journey, so to speak. Now we open with the men of the Beggar King going about the criminal ways, smuggling things and the like, as Bonfire Annie comes to burn their stock and says the dock belongs to her. It's interesting as she is no longer working for Malady, and I think she only really wanted to work with her, really, as it paid, until, in her words, the crazy was too much. And it has clearly been a big thing that Mary's song has affected her as she is moving on from, well, violence to, just normal crime, which is interesting. Now, I love how Prudence and Amalia came in and actually used the fire extinguisher thing as they appeal to Annie's better nature and to join them as the touched are being killed. Now, while over the course of the episode her motivations in recruitment were questioned by many, including her former lover Horatio, it's evident that she needs a fighter like Annie on her team. However, maybe Horatio was so hard on her as he regrets their affair. Now, it's a very interesting storyline here getting Annie, and it seems like she really has come over to them as of the end of the episode. But she's patched up by her former lover as they ingested the smoke from opium that was burned, and Horatio the healer lambasts Amalia for doing what she was doing and calls it reckless. But I think it takes someone like Amalia to know truly what is at stake and what is needed to truly recruit touched and bring them to her instead of Swan's brothel or the worst place like those experiments. And she needs Mary's song, but Mary is performing in the dining room. I presume it's a dining room or a kitchen, and well, Penance has luckily invented a brightener, which I found funny that Amalia christens it an amplifier, which they all conclude is a very boring name. Now, they plan to elevate her song above the clouds so every single touch can hear it and feel the hope that it brings. However, later Mary questions Amalia for attempting to recruit the woman who kidnapped her, and amongst almost all the players, Amalia's true intentions are questioned, and yes, we have to wonder what the endgame is, a safe haven or a takeover of those in power. Now, interestingly, she does say that she knows things that she shouldn't, and I personally do think that she has seen beyond the immediate future and has actually seen what the true endgame is, as we cut to, unfortunately, the Ferryman's Club in a very gratuitous sex scene, which was pretty much straight up pornography. I was very much clutching my pearls as Augie walks in on this audition. Now, Swan is using Augie's name basically for the company papers and to legitimize this operation, and Augie needs to keep it from his sister, who on the surface loves the touched, but is in secret facilitating experiments on them. But we cut to Lord Masson's house, who is having a telephone installed. Yes, that brand new invention, and I loved his take on technology, bringing people into houses that we built to keep people out. However, one of the workers actually comes across what he's told is a rabid dog. However, in the premiere, we know his daughter was actually affected by the ship that made the touch, so he's seemingly keeping her under prisoner in his house, and it explains his interest in the touched, as we see the Beggar King furious. Not only did his workers run away from a woman, but Amalia was there too, and explains his henchman's attack later in the episode, played by the very intimidating bodybuilder Martin Ford. Now, we do catch up with Inspector Mundy, who, in his words, is led on a Moriarty-style clue hunt, leading to a tiny pub, which, yes, those tiny pubs do exist to this day. We learn that Swan was behind the raid last week, hoping to scare the touched off Amalia so he can actually recruit the stragglers, and there's far more to Mundy than meets the eye, as it's heavily implied that Mundy actually slept with Swan but he said he was drunk. This explains why Mary says later there is a part of him that he hates, which is kind of explains his rage, and of course this was incredibly taboo during Victorian London. Now, interestingly as well, Penance finds the poster our Italian girl found last week that has a fake address of the orphanage. Of course, we know this experiment house is something Lavinia is behind, as Amalia heads there and slaps the heck out of the woman, and also fights one of the demons. Of course, Amalia takes this info later too, which explains why we see the machine gunman of the concert hall released from prison, although that happens before, as Malady is patched up by Horatio. As we learn, he worked at the hospital she was tortured at, but he was one of the good guys, which is interesting, as we also learnt this episode of the affair that he had with Amalia. So there's a lot more history to unlock here, and it's being drip-fed, and it's been written in a very clever way. But Mary also talks to Mundy, and she says that, well, there's a part of him that he hates, which pretty much confirms why she left him at the altar there. And, well, we do actually catch up with the government council, which is interesting, but I couldn't quite make out what they were talking about. So I had a look at the contract thing, or that they saw, which I presume is the Ferryman's Club, but if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, because I wasn't too sure on that. However, Amalia meeting Bidlow is a big thing, as she lets slip that Mary was going to be singing in the park. We're going to have a nice little picnic there, and of course, well, Bidlow is behind the later murder. Well, I presume it's not explicitly confirmed, but it's kind of obvious here, which is even more curious as the assassin was someone who worked with Malady, but it remains to be seen what these plans are and what that glowing thing is in the ground, and it's very curious, as I want to know really why and how Amalia got into bed, so to speak, with Bidlow. However, on her way to the park and reviewing the ledger of victims, she's attacked by the Beggar King's henchman, who, well, the effects look stunning as his henchman walked on the water. We had the fight, and, well, she actually heads off to the park, which culminates in Mary singing her song and finding her voice, only to be killed by Cruz, who is then shot by her former flame. Now, the other players can't have the touch feeling hopeful, can they? Which, of course, plays into the glowing thing we found the other week. But Lavinia'S plan backfires as Annie brings a new load of touch to the orphanage. And I like the fact that Mary was skeptical about this, but Annie will be a defender here of the orphanage, which was pretty cool. And overall, it was a really, really good episode. It's a very slow burn. I've seen a few reviews this week while I was at the gym, and I saw that a few people were saying that it's a bit too slow, which I kind of get, but it's really enjoyable. I'm enjoying watching it. But let me know what you think in the comments. Please do drop a like down below. Please do subscribe with notifications on if you want more from us. And we will be back tomorrow with Falcon and the Winter Soldier deleted scenes. I'll see you soon, and goodbye.